Your plans? Today it's dinner with the parents at your spot.
We gotta come back here.
Now, their spot. Or you're on the edge of your seat at the game.
Come on, just one time.
And it's the one. Or maybe you're catching the next flight to...
Now boarding flight 1850.
Oh, that's you. The choice is yours. And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, musician Leisure McCorkle talks about being under pressure, playing the world-famous Cavern Club, and almost getting in a bar fight with Noel Gallagher from Oasis.
I was in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I was going to school there for my PhD in anthropology. I got an offer from a promoter that he offered me a slot. Got to play the Cavern Club. So I went to tell my supervisors, and I said, look, I got this gig at the Cavern Club. It's on like a Thursday night. Can I get out of the seminar the next day? And he's like, yeah, but you got to be back for the seminar. And I was like, geesh, that's going to suck.
Today on the show, musician Leisure McCorkle talks about being under pressure and the antics of a rock star. Stay close.
Hey, this is Leisure McCorkle, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 9 years, that's right, 9 years, Leisure. That's a long time. That is a long time. Or you're a new fan, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the story last week with actor Vince Van Patten. Do you remember the Van Pattens, Leisure?
Yeah.
They're like an amazing classic Hollywood family.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all wanted Dick Van Patten as our dad.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like you watch, my gosh, he was in like the Shaggy DA and High Anxiety and it seemed like Dick Van Patten, Vince's dad,
Yeah.
was in like every movie in the 70s.
He was the Kevin Bacon of his time.
He was, and we all wanted him as our dad.
That's right.
But his son, Vince Van Patten, the youngest of the three Van Patten boys, was on the show last week, you guys. I hope you heard it. He talked a lot about poker, about his new movie, 7 Days to Vegas, which is about a gambling bet. He also talks about being the MC for the World Poker Tournament for over 18 years. Did you know that?
No.
He's way into poker, as his dad was.
Okay.
It's interesting. Anyway, you guys, go back, listen to Vince Van Patten last week on Storyworthy, but not today, because you guys, we are here right now with musician Leisure McCorkle. Leisure McCorkle. You cannot go wrong with that name, first of all. Were you born with that name, Leisure?
No, but I've been called that a very long time. I have Scottish roots, obviously, and my name is William, and so they call me Liam.
I like that.
But Liam wasn't a very common name when I was coming up, and especially in the South. And over time, we just got to the point where people would call me anything they wanted, and Leisure just sort of stuck. And later on, I just decided to call that as my band name. And
I love that name. I never heard it before, and I love it. Leisure. Cool. Leisure McCorkle. Anyway, you guys, he's here today, and he brings forth the topic Under Pressure. Under Pressure. With musician Leisure McCorkle. Who has not been under pressure? I mean, this is not...
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody's been under pressure,
Right.
but it depends on, like, what kind of pressure you're talking about. Now, listen, I have to say, Leisure, you are a very good friend of one of my very good friends, John Thomas Griffith, who, as my audience knows, is the writer and singer of the song Follow Me, which has been my theme song for 9 years.
Okay.
Which is unbelievable.
That's cool.
So you're John Thomas's good friend, and John Thomas, he and I, we have this ongoing friendship over, 15, 20 years. But you know how it is when you have somebody long distance. He's doing his thing, and I'm doing my thing. And anyway, if your long-time friend that you don't only talk to 2 or 3 times a year texts you and says, you should talk to this guy, then You do.
Cool.
And you were
we
here.
we played Wednesday in San Francisco.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Oh, it's great. Just seeing Griff is really cool. We go way back now, probably almost 30 years.
It's amazing.
And we stayed in touch, and we bounce ideas off of each other. And I mean, he's a true songwriter. I mean, the guy. I mean, if you listen to his music over the years, I mean, he's just a really gifted Americana songwriter in the traditional sense.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, he really is. I love all of his music. Honestly, I listen to a lot of his stuff is just in my playlists.
Yeah.
Apples and Onions. I love that album.
Yeah.
And you've played with a lot of really interesting people, different members of bands that people would know, like Squeeze, the
Right.
Lemonheads, the Pixies, Edwin McCain.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
Wow.
I kind of came up with him and the Hootie guys.
Interesting. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, with Mark Bryan of Hootie and the Blowfish. You also played with Elliott Smith.
Yeah.
Well,
I did a little
shit,
small
man.
tour with him before he sort of
No
blew up.
kidding.
Yeah, no, he was. I just had this conversation with somebody in Portland. I played the song, and they went, he's from here, right? It was a younger guy, and he was really like excited that I played it, you know. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, well, I played some dates back with that guy, when he was coming up.
And what was? I mean, was he always so depressed? I mean, his songs are sort of low key.
He's very. I mean, the first time I heard Elliott Smith, I was like punk rock. I grew up in a punk rock band, and I played with bands like the Ramones and the Circle Jerks and 7 Seconds and all these kinds of bands. And for the longest time, as a kid, I thought punk rock had to be loud. And the first time I heard Elliott Smith, I think I was like, man, this guy's as punk rock as anything I've ever heard, but it's soft, and he had a really unique voice. And just a really unique style, and he was a real laid back guy,
It's super interesting that you say that, because I mean, I love his songs as well, because it's almost like he's whispering to you.
Yeah.
But I never would have said punk rock. What makes you say that?
I mean, just like some people think his music. Like I've heard people say that too. Like it's so depressing, or it's so
Not depressing,
so
but it's
sad,
low key. Yeah.
Yeah, low key. But the thing is like if you listen to some of the songs, they have a bite to them. Like Southern Belle, that rings home. I mean, of course, songs mean different things to different people, right?
So you're saying he's like anti-establishment? He was anti-establishment?
Yeah, even when he was kind of big.
Yeah.
He was almost, it reminded me a little bit of Jellyfish, which is a happy version, I guess, of Elliott Smith's pop, is that we're really messing with the formulas, of corporate popular music.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of people. Frank Black's another one. I've played his first solo show in Charlotte.
I don't think I know him.
From the Pixies.
Oh, I see.
He's Black Francis Charles.
Interesting.
There's people that are out there that have been lucky to transcend sort of like, you're in the seat of LA. So, music is, at least 50% made here, and it's gone out all over the world, and there's a formula to a lot of it, and there's a lot of great bands that have come out of that formula. But every once in a while, an artist comes out and defies all those rules, all those sort of things you're supposed to do to become, famous or big or whatever. And every once in a while, someone comes out like an Elliott Smith, and someone big in the music business says, usually it's David Geffen did it a lot, and someone comes out and says, man, this guy is so good, I don't really care if he has drums in his band or if he sounds like anything on the radio. I remember all the radio people, they didn't want to play Elliott's music because they were like, well, he doesn't have any drums, it's not upbeat, and I was like, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, if Simon and Garfunkel came out today, would you say there's no drums?
Yeah.
Interesting. You know what I'm saying?
He did have a bass, though, right? I mean,
it
was a bass. So.
Well, he had, when he got a little bigger, he started doing more, arrangements, and he had drums and bass and different things. And Quasi, the band from Portland, was his backing band.
Oh, I didn't know that. And the mural, there's a mural of him, right over here on Sunset. Have you seen that? The swirly
The Pieces
one?
of Eight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you something. Do you have kids?
No, I do not.
Do you have nieces and nephews?
Do I? Nieces and nephews. Cousins.
Leisure.
Cousins.
Do you have any siblings?
No, I do not.
So
No.
if you don't
Had to
have
think about it.
siblings, you don't have nieces
I don't have any.
and nephews.
Well,
If you
maybe
have
in
a-
another
if
country
you
that I
have a
don't know about.
wife- If you have a wife, then she could have nieces
Do
and
not have
nephews.
a wife.
So if you don't have a wife and you don't have siblings, I know you don't have nieces and nephews.
I do not have any nieces and nephews. No,
But you have cousins.
I have lots of cousins.
And I bet you care about those people.
I do care about them.
Let me tell you something. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I got to tell you, when it comes to kids' books, it is super hard to find new books that are educational and entertaining. You know, both. So you get stuck reading the same books over and over again, which I'm not saying is a big deal, but like, if my daughter reads one more Wimpy Kid, I mean, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, it gets redundant.
Right.
Anyway, that's where the Literati Book Club comes in. It inspires your kids to fall in love with reading. You guys, Literati curates unique books from small publishers around the world. So they basically handpick really great books, and then they package them up in a beautiful box to help you inspire your child to fall in love with reading. Literati is a subscription book club that makes it easy to find unique and interesting books for your kids. Now, each Literati box contains 5 age-appropriate books based on a theme, like the spirit of adventure or the animal kingdom. And then it also includes exclusive artwork and a personalized note to your child. And my daughter got this really cute little bookmark. Anyway, you guys, each month you buy the books you want and then you return the rest. It's easy and it's free. You guys, here's what you do. For a limited time, you go to literatibooks.com and use the promo code STORY for $20 off your first box. Plus, kids 3 and up get a special blacklight pen. Hooray! This is their
Black lights.
That's what I'm talking about. This is Literati's best offer available anywhere. Really, you guys. To get in on it, you have to go to literarybooks.com, use the promo code STORY, and you'll get $20 off your very first box. Plus, you'll get a free blacklight pen for kids 3 and up. You guys go to literarybooks.com and use the promo code STORY. Would you do that? You wouldn't believe how excited my daughter is when that box comes every month.
Yeah.
Seriously, man. Anyway, you guys, Leisure McCorkle is here right now. And before we get to his story, I did want to remind you guys to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Storyworthy. You know that. Of course you know that. In fact, I'm kind of embarrassed even reminding people. You know what I mean? Because, like, it's only Storyworthy. There's nothing else on the logo. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's so clear. So
Right.
to tell people to go to storyworthypodcast.com or follow me on all those social media at Storyworthy, it's almost redundant. So I won't even say that. There, I'm not saying it. All right, you guys, right now, he is here, Leisure McCorkle. He's a writer and a musician who has released 4 critically acclaimed albums, including 5,000 Light Years Beyond the Speed of Sound and Jet Set Baby. Now, Leisure has toured nationally and internationally, and like I said, he's played with so many different musicians. It's super impressive. And so if that's not enough, and it is enough, don't get me wrong, Leisure, it's enough. But you also have a PhD in cognitive and evolutionary anthropology, which I don't even know what those 4 words mean, so maybe you'll tell me that. And you have a great website over at leisuremccorkle.com. You can also follow Leisure over on Twitter at Leisure McCorkle. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Leisure McCorkle.
Okay, so so about 2004, I was in Belfast, Northern Ireland. People always ask me, what's the difference between the two, the Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland? And Belfast is like the little corner, the northeast corner of the island of Ireland, right? And it is part of the UK and not part of Ireland. And Ireland is part of the EU, which, of course, we know the UK will soon may not be part of the EU. Any case, I was going to school there for my PhD in anthropology under 2 really big supervisors, and I just packed up everything. I got the chance to go there, and I was like, and my music career had been going pretty well around then. I had released that Jet Set Baby, and I was getting some traction and was touring a bunch. In fact, Griff was really, from Cowboy Mouth, really helped me out at the particular time because members of my band were in other bands. They were on major labels, and it was kind of a joke at one point in time. It's like, if you played with me when I was going to do a showcase to get a record deal, you probably got signed. I got an offer from a promoter that does International Pop Overthrow, who is here in L.A., actually, David Bash. who I got to hang out with last night at my show. And he puts international pop overthrow festivals on all around the U.S. and some in Europe. And he has one at the Cavern Club, which is famous because of the Beatles and the Mercy Sound and all
In
that.
Liverpool.
In Liverpool. It's a famous, absolutely famous bar, and he offered me a slot on the. There's 3 stages now there, but that particular time, and I played it multiple times now, but he offered me a slot on the original stage, and it has the funky stuff, the background.
I can picture the Beatles on there because you see all those.
Yeah.
And the stage is kind of up. It looks like almost like an elementary school stage because it's like up off the ground.
It's really crazy.
I can picture it.
Paul McCartney and David Gilmour had played the big stage they have now in the back. Only a couple weeks, I think, before we were there. And I mean, so people still go back, and play.
Sure.
And I mean, every legendary UK band has played that club, right? So it was no brainer. And I was in Belfast, and that's a $50 plane ticket.
Yeah, that's a puddle
jumper. Yeah, EasyJet or whatever it was, right? And so I committed to it. When I decide I'm going to do something, I do it, and then I figure out how I'm going to do it afterwards, which may not be the way to go, but that's the way I work. So if something big like that happens, and to me that's big,
huge.
Got to play the Cavern Club. So I went to tell my supervisors, and one of my supervisors, who was really the head of the program, he was young and hip and from London, and he was a Cambridge guy, and he was like, "Wait, you're going to play the Cavern Club?" Because he knew I was a musician, but he didn't really have he knew I had albums, but he didn't really know like how much of music person I was. And I said, "Look, I got this gig at the Cavern Club. It's on like a Thursday night. I've got the ticket. Can I get out of the seminar the next day? Because we all meet on Friday mornings at I think it was 9 o'clock. Yeah, I think it was 9 o'clock. And it was like, that's all we met because it's all research. There's no classes really at the program. You have to do all the work on your own at this point. And he's like, yeah, but you got to be back for the seminar. And I was like, geez, that's going to suck. Because the first flight out, I think I took the first flight out and it was like 6:15 in the morning, back to Belfast. And then you're at the international airport. So you have to actually take a cab to make it back to get it all to work in time. Hopefully the plane is like working and everything, right? But at least it was domestic because Belfast was part of the UK and Liverpool is part of the UK. And I didn't have to go through a lot of hassle and customs and immigration and all that kind of jazz. So that made it easier. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so it was fun. I'm sitting there like, I just fly around and play all the gigs in Europe, It's easy. It's
You're
cheaper.
a rock star, man.
It's $50.
Do it.
So I went into Liverpool, got in. They asked me what I was doing, and I basically said, they didn't give me a hard time at all. And I just said, I always say when I'm coming from America that I'm going to a stag party. Stag party is a good way to get into another country if you're going to bring a bunch of musical gear and merchandise.
Really? No, why?
Well, I mean, because a lot of the locations that I fly into are places where people go and do their over there it's called stag and hen party, right? So it's like, I don't know.
It just sounds so old school.
Yeah, but
stag party. That means like bachelor.
Yeah, it's a bachelor party. Yeah. So. A lot of times I'll roll in and I'm going, oh, what are you coming to Liverpool for? I'm going stag party, man. He's like, and like looking at me going, man, have a great time. Welcome to John Lennon Airport. Bam. One time I had a guy ask me in Dublin, he's like, what are you doing here? You see the guitar on my back, and he's going, what are you doing to be doing Dublin? And I was like, well, I'm actually going to Belfast to go to Northern Ireland to see some friends because I went to school there. I was like, but I'm going to have the God's finest pint of Guinness in the world tonight in Dublin. And he goes, oh, where's the best pint of Guinness in all of Ireland? And I said, oh, Mulligan's. Mulligan's best pint of Guinness in the world. And he goes, bam, man that knows his business. Welcome to Ireland. And I get to the bar. And there's a little crowd over on the side, and these people are taking pictures. And I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to this guy, and I'm like, man, I recognize that guy. And he had a little sort of a bowl cut, out sort of Beatlesque. It's like, it's Liverpool. Everybody's probably got a bowl cut these days. And we start talking, and he's like, man, no matter how big you get in the music business, my friend, you will never be as big as this guy right here. And I was like, well, who the hell is that dude? You know? And he goes, oh, that's the star for Liverpool Football Club. And that's his family.
He's a soccer player.
Yeah. He goes, in about 15 minutes, the entire town will be down here trying to catch him, you know, because they'll hear that he's here.
And what
He's
was
like,
he doing there?
And he was just, it was a legendary club. So he was there with his family taking pictures, you know, of the club and him and them in it, you know, or whatever.
Like eating and watching the show.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they were sticking around for the show. I think they were just there to get pictures in the club. I mean, it's sort of open sort of all day. Like you can go in, it's got a bar. And
so who's the soccer player? Who is this guy?
I can't. But
I'll never know him. I won't know him.
I can't remember. I can't remember who it was now. But I mean, he was super, super famous. I mean, he was one of the big soccer players.
Yeah.
And he played for Liverpool. And I didn't know who he was. I wasn't a Liverpool fan or whatever. But I was more into rugby myself. But so. You know, as soon as they said it, I was like, oh, yeah, I've seen that guy on TV. So the guy next to me is like, no matter how big you get, you will never be as big as that guy in the music, you know, from the music business. Because soccer players get paid 100 million euro, whatever.
Wow.
You know, and this guy was a superstar. Like, he was the Michael Jordan of Liverpool, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there talking to the guy next to me, and I finally figure out, you know, he's a famous musician, basically from the UK, like super famous musician.
Well, who was that?
And
well, wait, who was it?
Let's just say he played in a big band with his brother.
What was it? Noel Gallagher.
Yeah, it was Noel Gallagher.
Good one.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there talking to him because at first I didn't think it was him. I just thought it was somebody that looked like him. But over time, we're shooting the shit, and he's just like, man, yeah, you know, what are you doing here and all this kind of stuff. I was like, playing at the Cavern Club, man. I'm going to rock this place out, you know. And then I got to get and I told him a story about me getting on the plane the next morning, 6:15, and he's like, man, that sucks. He goes, I just blow that one off. I was like, well, I'm going to have to get into a lot of fun to blow that one off, my friend, you know, or whatever. And he's like, we'll see what we can do about that. So I ended up playing the show at the Cavern Club. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I was broke at this point in time because I brought every cent I had. I sold everything I had, you know, pretty much except for my musical equipment to go to school because even though I got a stipend, it hadn't kicked in yet. So I had to pay rent. In fact, I got hassled at the airport in London at Gatwick because they were like, why do you have all this money in cash? Are you going to be buying any guns? You know, you're going to be whatever. Jesus. I was like, what am I going to do with 5,000 pounds? I was like, how many guns? And by the way, I'm coming from south, you know, the southern part of America. What would I be buying guns for in northern Ireland or whatever? I don't know. They were just, hassling because that's what they do anyway. And then so we're shooting the shit, and I'm like, you know, okay, how many beers can I afford to get? Because I think I got a couple of tokens or something shit like that. And I got to be careful because I got to make sure I got enough for the cab because the buses aren't going to run that early. And I was just going to stay out all night and then take the cab to the airport and then sleep on the bench. I was like, it's the best bet for me getting on that plane at 6:15, right? So I played the gig, and it was awesome. And then Noel was playing around the corner at another bar that night. And this is like, you know, he was just trying out his solo stuff. And he told me he wasn't really comfortable with it yet. And I was like, well, shit, man, you were in the biggest band in the UK, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's like
Oasis, bigger than Jesus.
I mean, big, right? People still make jokes about it. Like a couple guys I know will get on Twitter and go, you know, 483 days and still no Oasis reunion.
That's funny. That's a funny tweet,
right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, man, screw that, man. He's like, I'm playing this acoustic gig over at the at this other club, which was pretty damn famous too. He goes, no pressure or whatever. I'm doing it for a friend of mine. You know, I lost a bet or whatever, and I'm playing because he owns his club or he's a promoter or whatever. He goes, you want to play? We'll hook it up, man. And it's like, okay. So I go over and I played the Cavern Club. I got some of the best pictures I've ever, you know, probably ever had. And I had a blast. And all the bands were fantastic, by the way. I mean, you're playing with the band that might be that big band.
You don't know.
Next.
Right,
and some of them were good enough to be that band, right? And that's why I love the IPOs. They're amazing. And
What's an IPO?
International Pop Overthrow. Yeah.
Interesting.
So then I go over and I play. I remember I went to the bank machine and I couldn't get out any money because my American card wasn't. I didn't ask for permission to use it internationally. Ugh, so I couldn't get any more money out. So I was like, well, shit, man, what am I going to do if I spend this $20 rocking it out? With the, cause I'm not assuming somebody's going to take me out or anything like that. I was just like broke. And this is the musician lifestyle.
People don't.
This is the pressure.
People do not realize this. Yes.
Yeah. So I end up playing the show with him. We have a great time. I think he even threw me a little bit of money, like just out of his pocket or whatever.
Nice.
And he goes, man, just go out with us. He goes, I'll get you to the airport in the morning. Don't worry about it. We're going to go to I got some mates here or whatever. We're going to take you to the pub. We're going to basically party all night. He's like, can't help you with that as far as like you being, hungover the next day. But you might as well just blow it out, dude. You're in Liverpool and you just you did whatever.
Right.
So he was really cool. He wasn't the guy.
Cool.
He wasn't the guy that I thought from the press. I mean, most people probably aren't anyway. But super cool guy.
But we've heard about the Oasis, those guys fighting forever.
Yeah.
The Gallagher brothers, they've always been fighting, and so we hear that, and we think. I mean, I don't know. I might think he might be aggressive. I don't know.
I didn't find that at all. In fact, I found him to be pretty laid back, but I mean, that's against him and his brother are notorious for being, like that with each other. Sure. But I didn't find him like that with me. Now he did have I could tell he had the Irish temper, and no one likes to be messed with, and celebrities get messed with a lot. And over there, I think it might even be worse than it is here, which is bad. I mean, you're in LA, I don't know, but I would imagine it wasn't the paparazzi or anything, but people like to talk junk to big musicians, right? So he was really good, with everybody when we were hanging out. And then we were like, he's like, let's go. We're going to the pub. Come with us to the pub. Just ride with us and whatever. So we go to the pub, and it's basically 20 females and about 4 guys. People that are there. And then there's the bartender and the door guy, and then maybe some people in the back that I didn't see. And he's living the life basically of a rock star. Like, I mean, he's basically.
Well, now you are too. 20 females and 4 guys.
There's at least 20 females.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was like it was getting ready to be something like the Motley Crue. Netflix.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I was waiting for that, right? Before that Netflix documentary came out. But anyway, so I mean, it was like
The Dirt.
It was The Dirt, right? Which is really scary because it's got Ramsey Bolton as Mick Mars. Have you seen it? Have you seen it yet?
I read the book.
Oh man, you got to see it.
I will.
Ramsey Bolton from Game of Thrones is
Oh
Mick
wow,
Mars, right?
awesome.
Right. So it's really weird. Anyway, we'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, so we're there. It's a party. It's L.A. Like, you know what I mean? It's a full-on rock star party. And then this group of guys, basically, I call them footballers, but they're, they angry little gang of guys from the neighborhood come in and go, we heard that asshole, such and such is here. What's he doing in our neighborhood?
Noel Gallagher?
Yeah, and all these guys are like a different sports team fan. They're like Man City and stuff,
geez,
right? I guess that's what it had to do with it. I didn't really know. And we're sitting at a table, and I'm looking at them. These guys are like, you can just tell they're talking shit to him across the table, and he notices it, but it doesn't really faze him for a little bit.
Yeah.
He's just like, get it everywhere. What are they going to do? And it gets worse and worse and worse. And finally, he says something back to one of the guys, and he says, why are you coming up in here, ruining the party? Why don't you just get a couple beers on me and basically shut the fuck up? I don't know if I can cuss on this thing.
Yeah, you can.
Shut the fuck up. And of course that made it worse. And then he goes, look, man, he goes, I know you didn't sign up for this, but I'm going to have to take care of this. And I went, take care of it. These guys are way bigger than us, man. And I mean, you know, there wasn't one or two of them. There was probably 5 or 6 of them. And these were pretty big guys. I mean, I'm not afraid, but I was like, man, it's not going to end well for us because he's really small. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's like looking at the Red Hot Chili Peppers, like looking at Flea, and you go, how small he is, right? Mm-hmm. And so he goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go over there and handle it, and you're going to make sure that nobody gets behind me. And I said, what do you mean nobody gets behind you? He goes, just promise me you're basically going to, in this, you know, his thick accent, just, you know, promise me you're going to make sure nobody gets behind me and everything's going to be cool. And I went, okay, but we're going to the hospital or jail. This is it. The pressure is gone, by the way, from the other thing. I've forgotten about the pressure from being back at school. I could just see it now. I'm going to call up my professor and go, can you bail me out? Because I'm in jail. And so he goes up. Okay, so I grab a bar stool, actually. It was getting a little bit weird, and the tension was there, and I grab a bar stool, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, okay, well, at least if anybody gets behind him, I'm just going to take the bar stool and just start swinging at the bar stool at people or whatever. And I think the people that the bartender and the doorman, it was too many people for them. They knew them, but it was just too many people. So they were like just trying to watch what was going to happen. And I could tell they tried to get him to leave a couple of times, and it just wasn't working. So Noel goes up to the biggest dude that's talking all the jazz and says, you know, I'm tired of it. You know, are you going to do something about it? Or are you going to have a beer and chill the fuck out? And the guy got in his face and he just went, bam. Like, I mean, it was like Mike Tyson, bam, and knocked him down. And
he hit him in the face.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because those guys were going to beat him up at some point.
Why?
Yeah, because they were just, I mean, it was intense. Like
they know it's Noel Gallagher.
Yeah, that's why they were going to do it to him, I think. You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly. We never did really talk about like why and all this.
Okay.
But you got to think about it. This is a guy that's got, I mean, infamous reputation, you know, and he talks as much junk as the next guy. I don't know. It's a guy thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
So he goes up and knocks the first guy, the big guy, down that's talking all the junk. And then the other guy comes up and he hits him and knocks him back. And the bartender and the door guy throw them out the door and then bar the door and leave the rest of us in the bar.
Oh, God.
So then that's it. That's the end of the whole deal for that night. And then we basically stayed there and partied. And then about, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the morning, we all got in a black cab. You know, or not all of us, but you know, some of us got in a black cab.
Yeah.
He took me, dropped me off at the airport, right? And they went and partied. And he actually told me, he was like, you know, if you want to party, you know, with us, man, go ahead. I'm going to get a hotel for the weekend, and I'm just going because I met some people that I, you know, whatever, want to hang out with.
So then what?
So then I get on the airplane. I'm stinking of booze and whatever else, and I get all the way back. I take the 20 pounds that I had, and I get the cab back to Belfast to the meeting.
What's the 20? Oh, it's 20 pounds.
20
yes,
pounds,
of course.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Money.
Sterling, yeah. And
Get to the meeting.
I get to the meeting, and I walk up to the door, and I knock on the door because I didn't have my keys with me through the thing. And the supervisor answers the door and goes, "Man, you look like shit, brother." He's like, "What happened to you?" And I just gave him the really brief version of the story. And he goes, "Dude, what is the matter with you? I would have stayed."
Oh, no way. So you did go, you finished the class, and it was okay.
I went into the class. About 30 minutes into the meeting, he was just like, I mean, we didn't even have a real meeting. Like it was like really, you know, it just wasn't. It wasn't that big of a deal that day. I think somebody was gone. I can't remember. And about 30 minutes in, 45 minutes in, which I was just totally hungover. He was like, everybody can go. You know, it's Friday. Have a good time, whatever. And then afterwards, he kept asking me. He's like, "Man, what's the matter with you, man?" He's like, "You should have stayed the whole weekend." If the guy invited, because you know he was a huge fan.
Yeah, sure. Who isn't?
And I thought for sure he was going to be like, "Man, you know, you got to take your responsibilities more serious and all this kind of stuff." And I just think that it added so much flavor to being a musician, because that's the way a lot of it is. A lot of it is not planned.
Oh, it's fly by the seat of your pants, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I've always been that kind of person, and I've had some really exciting adventures because of it. But then on the other hand, I've also been on the reciprocating end of it didn't work out or.
So it seems like there can be a lot of pressure, but then you have to kind of mediate it in your head, like what to take super seriously and what to just figure, hey man, when am I going to have this opportunity again? Yeah.
And I think that's where when we started this conversation, we talked about sort of drugs and things like that. I think that people have I watched that Robin Williams documentary recently. People have different ways of coping with the stress.
Sure.
I just started taking CBD oil recently.
That's a good thing.
Which I didn't realize I had a lot of stress until I started taking it. And I was like,
it added stress.
No, it took away. It felt like it lifted a lot of stress off, and I sleep better. I dream better. I just ran out of it, as a matter of fact. But
you get more.
I'm definitely going to get more. But so you see people cope with that because no one. I don't care who they are. Most people cannot cope with the kind of stress and anxiety that world brings, whether it's comedy,
as an
artist,
of course,
whatever.
Because if you have the opportunity to not be in this business, you wouldn't be.
Right.
But it comes down to there's nothing else you can do.
Right.
Like I can do well. I think that all the time. I think I wish I could do something else well, but unfortunately, this is what I do well.
Yeah.
It just happens not to pay real well. Although it does and it doesn't. Let me ask you, because we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to ask you one question.
Sure.
You said how because of social media, there's so many more people in the field and it makes it more difficult. But in my opinion, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like the cream rises to the top, and either you have the stick-to-itiveness and the consistency to hold an audience, or you do not. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are trying and failing, but I feel like it's still at the end of the game, it comes down to who's going to satisfy their audience over and over again.
I think it's asking you to be a different kind of artist, and that you're trying to figure out. It's like being in the Wild West.
You mean that you have to divide your time between being a musician or a songwriter and going out and doing what you always do, and on top of it, you have to handle social media.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like, are most musicians or artists, are they good business people?
Well, I don't know. I don't think you have a choice anymore.
You don't.
Either you hire somebody to do it or you're not in the game.
Yeah.
It's like in the 70s, if you were a business, you needed to be in the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
Or in the 70s, maybe in the music world, you needed a certain agent. Well, now the beauty is that you can take all of that power within yourself, and I know it's hard, the social media thing, but just to have a stamp on all the different platforms. So I always tell people, you don't necessarily have to be on Instagram every day, but you need an account on Instagram just to tell people in the description where you do want them to go. In other words, you point them to the direction, whether it's LeisureMcCorkle.com or at LeisureMcCorkle or whatever, but you need to tell people, guide them where to go, because if you don't take control of your identity, then somebody else will.
Yeah. I agree.
So you don't really have
that.
a choice. It's unfortunate, and there is that bit of ugly business side to it, but I think there's a way to slightly embrace it. I don't know.
It's just changed so much in the last 20 years. I mean,
I know.
It's a different ball game now.
Listen, man, I started podcasting over 9 years ago, and when I started, I was routinely in the top 10 of the iTunes podcasts because there weren't that many podcasts.
Okay.
And now it's called Apple Podcasts, and there's 750,000 podcasts. So it's, and I understand. However, it's me personally knowing what I can do and knowing what my path is, and I try not to look to the left and the right and all the other shows going on. I try to keep my focus. And I'm not saying it's working, but I feel like, we have that ability now. It's like a consumer, there's like a consumer, it's consumer friendly to do all these different platforms. It's not perfect, but
well, I mean,
I don't know what the answer is.
No, I mean, I think what you're saying is it's opened up the possibility that you can do much more on your own.
Yes, and I've discovered some phenomenal people, whether they're comedians or just public speakers and stuff, because now there is an availability of platform.
But then there's the problem of all these great filters that open up all these pathways.
Yeah.
They're all being super controlled by these massive companies.
Dude, at the end of the day,
You know?
we don't own anything.
I mean,
Sucks.
I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I'll tell you what. I read a lot of David Lowery, who was in Camper Van Beethoven and Cracker.
Oh my gosh,
He
yeah.
teaches in the business school for music at Georgia, University of Georgia.
Yeah.
He has been on top of this whole streaming.
Interesting.
All the stuff that's going on with musicians because, when I hear Farrell or whoever these guys are, and they're doing millions or tens of millions of downloads, and they're getting paid like, a couple $100
At the most.
You got to be asking
I know.
yourself.
Like Dave Matthews on Spotify was given like $800 last year or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, that money is being made.
Yeah.
Where is it going?
It's complicated. Listen, by the way, David Lowery, my favorite song, all her favorite fruit.
Oh, okay.
Because she serves him mashed potatoes and she serves him peppered corn with steak or something like that. I love that song. Anyway, listen, I adore you. I love your music. John Thomas Griffith was absolutely right. He knew I would love your music. And one of the favorite songs of yours that I really adore is that song Warehouse. I love that.
Oh, okay.
It's so beautiful and just kind of an upbeat, sweet, I don't know, 90s sound. I don't know. I love it. When we sign off tonight, we're going to play that song.
Okay.
Instead of John Thomas Griffith. You can just tell him, hey, Griff, we're playing my song.
Griff and I wrote a song together on that record, right?
And what was that?
Why You Want to Do Me Like That?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Nice.
We wrote that together.
Hey, listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Leisure McCorkle. I so appreciate you coming on, really.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, you guys, I got to wrap it up right about now. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Follow Leisure over there at his website, leisureMcCorkle.com, and also follow him on Twitter at Leisure McCorkle. You followed me today. Thank you.
Yes, I did.
Follow me over there as well at Storyworthy. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of all the sponsors on the show today. Really, you guys, when you check out my sponsors, you are supporting me, and I thank you. And on behalf of the very talented Leisure McCorkle, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
My name is Christine Blackburn saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Touchdown on a Friday night, I made my way to see the hype. Last call and I was sad to leave. Paid my tab and fired it up and called the boys to pick us up.
You made it. Checked out of office to check into the sweet views of this place where the kids aren't asking for the Wi-Fi.
Mom, can we go to the pool?
And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Dad's Mr. Popular at the JCPenney Father's Day sale. From teas and tech to fragrance and fitness, find cool gifts for every kind of dad. Surprise him with an iTouch Active smartwatch, now $29.99. Score major savings with doorbusters, like St. John's Bay polos, just $7.99, and shorts, $16.99. Plus, shop extended store hours Friday and Saturday. Shopping is back. JCPenney. Offers valid on select styles through 6/19. Some exclusions apply. Doorbusters and smartwatch excluded from coupons. See store or jcp.com for details.